What's happening, model makers? I thought that I would share with you a little bit of a technique, and it's one of those techniques that you honestly hope that you never need. I've seen quite a few posts on the Facebook groups and forums and things like that where guys have gotten a defect of some kind in their clear coat. For whatever reason, maybe something funky happens with the paint and there's a weird reaction and they get some kind of a cloudy effect or some cracks or some spider webs or whatever. Or you drop it or accidentally stick your finger in it and make a fingerprint. Whatever it is, we've all had it happen. But I'm always surprised at the range of advice that I see for how to solve the problem, because inevitably when these things happen and guys post about it, they're asking for help. How do I solve this disaster? And I have seen some crazy advice that ranges from, doing some kind of a dance on the night of the full moon and, uttering incantations and saying spells, to stripping all of your clear coat with brake fluid or lacquer thinner or even silicon, somebody said one day. And I'm just, hey, look, if it works, hey, go for it. Do that dance. Get out there on the full moon and make it happen. But here's the thing to remember about clear coats is that it is nothing more than a thin plastic shell that's wrapped around your model, a clear plastic shell. And just like any other clear plastic, it can be buffed and polished. So if you have a defect, that is really the old school way of taking care of it. And it may sound a little scary to think about taking some sandpaper to your, to your model. But hey, at that point, how much have you got to lose, right? I know it's scary for everybody because at that point you've got a ton of work invested, but trust me, it can be fixed. And I'm going to show you how to do it here pretty easily. Okay, here we go. Let's see how we can fix a defect in the clear coat. As you can see, I have taken one of my bench mules here, which has been sprayed with nothing more than some black Badger Stynel res, and then clear coated to a reasonable shine. And in this case, I used all-clad aqua gloss. I just chose that because it's a good clear coat and I use it quite a bit, but also because it's a little bit tougher than some of the other clear coats out there, particularly Future. I've had good luck with Future, but it's not quite as I don't know what the right word is. It's just not quite as hard as aqua gloss. So at any rate, either one of them can get a defect in it, especially if you do what I did and stick your thumb right in the middle of it and make a big fat thumbprint. And if you listen to that, you can tell that that's definitely a thumb, there's definitely a defect there. It's not just visual. But either way, it needs to be gone, right? So how are we going to do that? All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just knock it down with a sanding stick. And that just happens to be my tool of choice for this one because it works well on this flat surface. But you can use any sander that works for you. But what you want to do is make sure that you don't sand too aggressively and go not only through the defect in your clear coat, but all the way through the clear coat and into the paint underneath, which may happen in this case just because the paint there's uneven, because I've actually got several layers of old paint and experimental decals and things like that going on under there. But at any rate, this is a 240 grit sandpaper sanding stick, and I'm going to just use it gently to get get most of the goober knocked down. Then I'm going to take a 240 grit sanding sponge It conforms to the surface a little bit better. And just, again, I'm going to quickly and lightly go over that. And what I try to do also is go in opposing directions, or at right angles, I guess is what I really should say. And the reason that you want to do that is to so that you knock out your scratches with successive passes of the abrasive, and that way you don't get any real deep gouges that'll be harder to hard to remove. Okay, anyway, so there you can see I've smoothed that down. The thumbprint is pretty much gone. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take some 4/0 steel wool, which is one of my favorite things, and I'm going to just burnish that. And you can put some pressure on it with the steel wool, but again, don't get too crazy, especially if you're using one of the softer clear coats. You can see where I've gone through it on the edge of that decal underneath. So, you just have to be careful, because if you've got details and things poking up through that clear coat, you definitely may rub the paint off of them. But, that's less of a penalty than having to refinish the entire thing. Okay, so you can see with just a little bit of work with the steel wool that I've now got a nice smooth finish there. It's not perfectly glossy, but if all you're going to do with this gloss coat is lay down decals, that is plenty smooth enough. And any cloudiness that you see there is going to go away with your next coat of varnish. So that's all the work that you really have to do. However, if you really need a higher gloss, a higher gloss finish, then you can take it to another level, and you can use some Novus polish or some polishing sponges, whatever works for you. I like to after I attempt to squeeze some polish out of the obviously thoroughly clogged nozzle of my Novus polish. Okay, so since I am clearly unable to unclog the nozzle of the polish, I'll just do this. All you really need is a little dab, and you can work this stuff with a cloth, and it'll do a pretty good job for you. But what I like to do, because I don't want to spend any more time at it than necessary, is grab my Proxxon ep50 Micro Mott with a buffing wheel on it, and just have a quick go at it, which is probably splattering polishing compound all over the camera lens, but hey, that's just the sacrifices we have to make sometimes. And obviously take a little more care than I am and don't be quite so clumsy, but in spite of all that, you can see that now that is a pretty nice finish. Obviously not perfect, so if you're trying to polish back to a show car shine, you've got to be a little more diligent than I was, but I just basically wanted to illustrate the point. And you can see that now there is no longer a big fat thumbprint on the hood of the little Corvette. Okay, so there you go. Just a quick look at one way to resolve a crisis of your clear coat. As you can see, it's really not that bad, and it's something that just about anybody can do with a little bit of elbow grease and a methodical approach. So hopefully it never happens to you, but if it does, I hope this technique helps you out. All right? Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Much love.